Empire.
Hello and welcome to a live stream edition of the John Conway Report. Do me a favor, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. You're watching us on YouTube later, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can always read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now on Jaden Daniels, what the Commanders need to see from him to make sure, like before they say, hey, he's our starting quarterback, and also what they are seeing from him that is really kind of puts you far down that line toward it's going to be at some point relatively soon. Let's be honest. Also, we have daily camp nuggets on ESPN.com from myself, from all the other NFL Nation reporters every day. And then for you gold members, I'll be doing a live stream show at 6 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. So join me there for a private Zoom and we'll have a good time. Always do. So before I get to some questions or just some comments or whatever you have, I want to go over my practice report since that's what I like to do. And I got my notes here and let's get to it. So today was probably the hottest day in camp. You might see me start sweating because it's over 90 degrees right now. It was in the mid to upper 80s today, humid, sunny. It's what you expect from a late or whatever we are. What I guess we're in August now. It's what you'd expect from an early August training camp practice in Ashburn. So, but what we also saw today were the one-on-ones for the first time. That's my favorite stuff. You get to see a little bit. They didn't have a long one-on-one period session, probably about 5 or 6 minutes, but you start to see guys, like I like watching the corners go against the defensive backs. You see the running backs and tight ends going against the linebackers and the safeties. You see the O-line going against the D-line. I'll get to more of that in a minute. But let's start with a little bit of news because, as you know, yesterday they claimed kicker Riley Patterson off waivers. Now they have 2 kickers in camp. It's a competition. I never thought Ahmed Ramiz would be the guy necessarily. I always felt like somebody else would be there available, whether it's in this way or down later in August, because he had no NFL experience. Patterson gives him somebody with NFL experience. 59 for 67 on field goal attempts over 3 years, was 15 for 17 with Detroit last season, got cut or released when I think they picked up Michael Badgley. So, but he's got experience, and I think they need that. Both kickers today were 5 for 5 in the one period where they had a direct competition. They do stuff off to the side. So that's not the only time they kick in practice, but it's the only time they kick in a full team situation. Both made it from 28, 33, 38, 48, and 53 yards. And there you go. So that's what we know about there. They also brought back a receiver, Byron Pringle. He is going to compete one of the last receiver spots, but also return job. He is a kick returner. He has not returned punts in the NFL. So if he's going to make it, it's going to be as a kick returner. You heard Dan Quinn the other day talk about Mike Samerstill, Kaz Allen. I think Austin Eckler looks good there. It's just a matter of do they want to use him there or not? What's his role from scrimmage? That would they really want to use him there? But that's where Pringle could help them if he makes the team. So again, he has not returned punts in the NFL. If he does that here, it'd be the first time. He also did have a nice catch today in the one-on-ones. So one of the things too with the punt returns, and a lot of it's Jamison Crowder's been working there, Kaz Allen. I'm going to be really curious to see how Kaz Allen develops over the period of training camp, and just does he become a guy who can consistently catch the ball and offer something more than just the returner, because you may have to play receiver in a pinch, but he does have that first step quickness. And when you see them working on sometimes during practice, that it's secure the ball and the first step. That first step matters a ton. So one of the things they do is they'll always kind of test on that. They'll take this big ball and they'll roll it at you as you catch it, and you just got to take a step, make a miss, and that's one way they do things. I think Crowder's good at that, and I'll be curious to see with Allen at that. He's just got to show that he can secure the ball, make good decisions, and then also help from scrimmage, which I'm not. I think we just have to see where he goes from there. Again, the one-on-ones, that was the highlight of the day, or that was a big part of the day. Let's look at that. So we had DBs against, again, they're on different fields, so you can't watch all of them. So they have 3 fields out here that are usable right now, but 4 fields. So I was over in the back. You got the one field on the left, you got one field on the right, and then that's where we could see the receivers and D-backs over here. You could see the linebackers going against the running backs over here. Harder to see the O-line, D-line at the other end of the field. So I'm going to get to them another time. But I saw a little bit of that, and I heard some things from other people who watch it. Mitch Tisler was really high on Brandon Coleman while he was watching that. So, and I saw one rep with Coleman against Jamin Davis, looked good. I've liked Coleman throughout camp. I think he does a nice job with his feet. I think he latches onto guys. I think he stays attached to guys. I think there's some times where, how is he going to I want to see him against a speed rusher to the outside. That's going to be a big key because, listen, let's face it, that's who you're going to be tested against in this NFC East, especially. Can he do that? So I think that'll be what I want to watch for going forward, but I like what I've seen so far from him. All right. I just told you about Brandon Coleman. Saw Deron Payne get inside Allegretti. All right, it's Deron Payne. The guys look really good. In fact, Dan Quinn said he's an absolute dog as a player. Really, really likes him. I think what he's been impressed by is his ability to rush the passer. I think he feels good about that. Stays square, and he's got that quickness. We've seen it. Now he's seeing it too. With the defensive backs, one of the first plays, Benjamin St-Juste. And by the way, I had a good conversation with St-Juste today. I'm going to play some of that. I'm going to play that for you, about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to play that for you on Monday. But just a really insightful conversation with St-Juste about the changes on the defense. You heard Craig Hoffman and I talk about some of that the other day while I talked to St-Juste for that today, and I'm going to play that on Monday. Just a good conversation. You'll understand why they feel good about the changes that have taken place. Anyways, on the first rep, nice job jumping the route against Zacchaeus on the inside. They both got their hands on the ball. They were both wrestling for the ball. Honestly, I'm not even sure who came up with the ball because they're kind of wrestling for a minute, but a good job with positioning by St-Juste. First rep with McLaurin against Emmanuel Forbes. McLaurin wins, beats him the inside, gets it. There you go. Later in the one-on-one session, though, Forbes did a nice job staying tight to McLaurin as he went to the corner of the end zone. Not a lot of room. There was no room there for, I don't remember which quarterback was trying to throw it to him, but no room really there at all. It would have had to have been a really, really good catch by McLaurin but there was really no room for him. So good job by Forbes. Defensive backs coaches were pleased. So he did get some redemption there. In the 11-11s, I'll get to that in a minute. Another nice job by McLaurin. So then I saw Luke McCaffrey against Samerstill. One of the things I think McCaffrey does a nice job. One of the things I haven't seen a ton of is a lot of separation at the top of the route where you saw it on this particular one-on-one route. Again, one-on-ones, just got to the top, little juke, gets some separation, a nice job by McCaffrey, and he caught the ball. Another time later with Samerstill against Jahan Dotson, cuts the outside, Samerstill there, deep throw by Daniels, nothing there, incomplete. For the entire month of August, the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is offering multiple ways to save on climbing and zip lining and 50% off axe throwing. There are only a few Sundays left without football, so it's time to get that last summer adventure on the schedule. There's no better place to spend the last few days and nights of the summer with friends and family. Don't just take our word for it. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring was named the #1 aerial adventure park in North America by USA Today. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. So there you have it, folks. For the rest of the summer, you can get the best climbing, zip lining, and axe throwing in the country, up to 50% off right here in the DMV. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/Kime. One guy who made 2 really nice catches during this portion was tight end Armani Rogers. And, I think he's a little bit of I don't know about forgotten guy. I think that's the wrong way to put it. But I think he's a guy to watch, I would say, in the preseason, because I think he still has ability. But the one thing what he showed today is it was Quan Martin had really good coverage underneath on him. And I don't remember, again, I can't remember the quarterback, and it's more about Rogers, but the ball was just over the shoulder of Martin, and you have Rogers making a diving grab behind him. Really, really nice play. Then later he's being covered by a safety, and just ball goes up, a little bit of a twisting catch by Rogers. Really nice job. So that was something that I think stood out on that side of the field. So good for him. But again, I think it's going to be something to watch just because, hey, the guy's got talent. Let's see what he does. So then we had Kaz Allen against Noah Benegeni, had him beat, but Benegeni makes a nice recovery in the end zone. Looks like Kaz is going to get the ball in the end zone, knocks it away at the last, gets his hand in there last minute, jars it free. Those are the kind of catches that we're going to see if Allen can make the roster. Is it a tough catch? Yes, but those are kind of catches you want to see to open the eyes of the coaches, just to, just because that's the stuff that matters. All right. And then also saw Mitchell Tinsley with a nice double move against Mike Davis. Got open, but it was an overthrow. But a good double move by Tinsley. Oh, and then another one was Jaden Daniels with a deep one to Pringle, makes a diving catch against James Pierre. So an NFL quality corner, but a nice throw, really nice catch by Pringle. Then it's funny because you watch guys like Austin Eckler, and one of the things you notice with Eckler is he's showing some quickness. You saw it in the route running, you saw it during the 11-on-11, and I'm really curious to see how that translates to games, because you don't want to get fooled too much by what you're seeing now. There have been times where everybody's been fooled before, and he's coming off a year where he didn't show all that. However, keep in mind that last year he was dealing with a couple ankle injuries, including a high ankle sprain suffered in like week 1 or week 2, which certainly impacts your ability to make good cuts. Well, you're seeing some of that play out now. And there was one route he had where he dusts. Now it's Bo Bauer. So, I don't even know if he's going to make the team. So he should win on that route, and he did by a decent amount, gets him inside. But he also saw him doing this in the 11-on-11s as well. And then let's see, Brian Robinson, nice little move, beats linebacker to the inside. That's exactly where linebackers can't get beat. You talk to any coach, that's where the big plays occur. You cannot get beat there. He did, and then Robinson wins there. So you're going to hear coaches like, you can't let him inside. That's what happened. That's where Davis would get in trouble as a linebacker in the past, when he would let guys get inside. Now sometimes, and sometimes you first of all, linebacker has to cover, and you're going to be in a bad spot sometimes. So you have to play with leverage. And in those situations, you want to make them cut to the outside, because it's a little bit easier to defend. You get to the inside, they're clear in the middle. It's a big play waiting to happen. So that's why that's important there. Jamin Davis, you may have heard, I asked Dan Quinn about him, and the plan is they're going to start working him a little bit more at linebacker. It's first and second down guy at linebacker, and then as a third down edge guy. Now, Dan Quinn said this has been the plan all along, and in the spring they kind of worked it like this in reverse. And by that I mean, in the OTAs he was playing linebacker during the 7-on-7s. You go with the second team linebacker, and then in minicamp, it was back to edge rusher more, and that was pretty much all I saw him at. So really, so far, all I've seen him as edge rusher, but he's going to be starting working back in linebacker. Now, that could be one of two things. Again, Quinn said it was planned, and I don't have any reason to doubt that. But I also wonder, are you seeing enough from him there? And it's still early. You still need to see the development, but you're not seeing him really work. He's not working against the starters. Well, he sometimes goes against Coleman, so that could be a starter. But, are you seeing enough development there to keep him there and do that? And who is he going to play in front of at that position? So I think, you could start to see what he can do at linebacker, and then make whatever decision you need to make, whether you want to keep him, cut him, or trade him, whatever it is. But that's what he's doing. So then in the 11-on-11s, we have Jaden Daniels went with the first team today. He was the first one out there. They're starting to move him in that spot more and more, kind of easing him into that role. Again, we know what ultimately is going to happen at that position. We know that ultimately he's going to be the guy. It's just a matter of when do they officially make that pronouncement, right? Just to end it. There's not even speculation. We know it's time, right? The kid just needs time. But what they really I always tell you, we see results of a play. They see process of a play. The process is impressing them from how he uses his cadence, how he calls the plays, the run checks he gets into, the patience with which he does it, how he tries to handle a cover zero situations. All that stuff is really good quarterbacking stuff. That's why they're excited. It's not just look at that run. Ooh, look at that nice deep throw. It's the process involved. They're getting from point A to point B to C within a play that they feel good about. And then the other thing is, I was talking about this. We were talking about this in the sideline today. I can't remember if it was Sam Forty or someone else, but I've noted this before, not the other day, but Sam pointed out. And one of the things with Daniels does well is gets it to his checkdowns in time so they can do something with the ball. So he's pretty good going through those progressions. And again, you get into your check down, boom, boom, boom. Now he's got a chance to run with it. And I've seen that out here, not every time. And he had a bad throw to McLaurin today on the screen, but by and large, he's looked pretty good. And I told you about Eckler. Eckler looks quick. So one matchup I like to watch, we had Tyler Owens was up near the line of scrimmage on one. I like that kid. I don't know if he's going to make the roster, but I think he's a guy worth developing, if nothing else. And so he was up near the line of scrimmage. He went up against McCaffrey. Good job by McCaffrey blocking. And I think, and Owens had a harder time getting off of him. I think you just have to get used to that. But he's a guy that I would still pay attention to, but a good job by McCaffrey. Johnny Newton, more reps in the 11-on-11 portion. And I think there's still some rust there, and as there should be. This is his first time. He's really, yesterday he took a couple. Today he took a few more. But, do you see what you saw a couple times? There was one time where it looked like there's a little bit more quick step, a little bit more explosion. Another one where just a hustle play, where Mariota runs around the end. He's the first guy getting down there, really sprinting hard after him, getting him out of bounds. So just you see some of that, but you're not seeing them just like destroy guys or anything like that, but you're seeing a guy working back into it. Let's see where he looks like next week, the week after, etc. The other thing I like too, and this is another play that last week, if you remember, there was a play where Jaden Daniels went to hit. I talked about this, hit Zach Ertz on a deep crosser. Tariq Castro-Fields comes over, knocks the ball away. A little bit off on that play in terms of the timing. Today, similar route, similar play, good patience by Daniels, drops it into Ertz, nice long completion, 15 to 20 yards. And that's one where I don't want to go overboard describing like, oh my God, what an improvement week one. I just think it's more of an example of getting more of that timing down perhaps, and just, and getting the ball a little bit quicker and getting on that same page with your receiver, but a nice job nonetheless. And good patience. The young man shows patience a lot in the pocket. And he also makes nice, easy throws. Like there's just a smoothness to what he does. And he had another one, again, I talked about the check down, but he had another one down the sideline to McLaurin, and who beats Emmanuel Forbes, drops it in on the dime, and just a nice, easy throw. He just shows patience with the ball and throws. The most important thing you can throw as a quarterback is a catchable ball, and he does. And that's what, it's funny because, not to go old school, but that's one thing that Bill Walsh would always talk about. And if you don't know who Bill Walsh is, please Google. But if you do, you know that he was one of the best coaches of all time. So he would talk about with the quarterback, the number one thing he looked for, does he throw a catchable ball? And Jaden Daniels does. They worked a lot on 25-yard line and in as well today. Mariota had a nice ball to Eckler down the sideline, over the shoulder, but he dropped it. And then Andrew Wiley did not take part in the team drills. So it was a lot of Brandon Coleman, Trent Scott, Lucas did not work today. So Wiley the other day had some tightness. This is not a competition thing. It's now about, there's some tightness there. So I'm assuming, and we didn't get to talk to him afterwards, but I'm assuming that it was more of that rather than anything else, because he would go out there like during some field goal blocking, and then he did some work in individual before and after practice. And after practice, when they're done, they do like 10 minutes of more individual sessions before practice is officially over. The horn sounds and they break, and then we can get to them. The media can talk to them, their families can talk to them, and then other guys just stick around and stay afterwards. But the low line does about another 10 minutes of a lot of hand work and just footwork, et cetera. So there you go. So how has Brian Robinson looked so far, and does the running game look to be at least better than last year? Robert wants to know that. Yes, Robert. I think with running backs, you always have to say, you kind of take a wait and see mode, because you need to see them engage, right? It's really hard to tell from them in training camp. I go back to when Larry Johnson was here the one year. Everybody's talking about, oh my God, he looks great. Then he goes out in the season, he's averaging like 2.0 yards per carry. Like he would have been ineligible for a high school game with that average. So you just have to keep that in mind. But I think where Robinson looks good is running his routes. I mean, he got open. I told you today, he got open on some good things, and I think he's looked good. But let's see in a game. Like I want to see in live situations, like against another team, et cetera, to say how he's looked. Will the running game be better? Yes, because they're going to emphasize it more. I also think that you have, like, between Cosme and Biotish and Allegretti, I like that interior. I also think with the blocking with Sinnott and John Bates and Zach Ertz, I think you're going to have a better situation there, and the play calling will be more balanced. I think that's going to help. So I think overall, I would, if they're not better running the ball than last year, then man, that's a problem. But I do think they'll be better for a couple. One, it's more of an emphasis, and two, I think the game planning, the scheming, whatever, play calling will help that run game as well. So Lewis wants to know, if you're the defense coordinator, where or how would you play Emmanuel Forbes right now? I mean, I continue to see if he can play, because one of the things, and I was talking to St. Just about this, and you'll hear it on Monday, but it's the way they want them to play. His skill set, the mindset with going after the ball, is going to help. So he can make those plays. However, I want to see him I think he's looked better now than he did at the end of last year. But I want to see him against the Jets receivers. I want to see him against the Dolphins receivers before you start to say, okay, now you go. But if you're going to use him, you're using him on the outside, because that's what he is. He's an outside corner. That's what he is. And so he's got the length. I think he can play in the system. He's not going to be very physical, but he's played more aggressive than he did last year. So we'll see where it progresses. So then Nate wants to know, is the musical chairs at O-line cost was a concern? No, I don't think there's I think there was a little bit too much made of some of what was going on with the O-line as far as who's doing where. The starters, I just told you the starters inside. And Wiley's issues at tackle are more injury related. Now again, he's got to play better. We know that. The one spot where you're not sure who for sure is left tackle. And I don't know that they have a legit solution at right tackle that would be necessarily better than Wiley. Would Cornelius Lucas be that guy if Coleman gets a starting job? I don't know. Could Coleman do it? Maybe. But I think let's assume that Wiley's going to be in there. So the other stuff is just seeing what other guys can do. That's what training camp is for. You have Michael Dieter as a backup center. You got to play guard. If you're Ricky Stromberg, you're a backup center. You've got to play guard. I think with Allegretti, it's also, they moved him to guard or center a couple of snaps. And I think sometimes just to see. It's not because, oh my gosh, we don't know if he can play or he can play. It's do this. And also in the game, sometimes that's what happens. Guys get shifted around, and sometimes you've got to be able to handle that. So I don't view it as a cause for concern at this point. Casey wants to know, of all the rookie tackles I've seen come and go, how does Coleman's progress compare? Whoa, let's see him against. I want to see him against another team first. I like what I've seen. Now, I think obviously Trent was different. Trent is a unique athlete. We saw it back then. I think where Trent really improved is understanding how to play the position versus just being a great athlete. That's one of the things, I love talking to Trent. I miss talking to that guy a lot because I thought he was smart, but I just like talking to him. But we talk about a lot about that, and just, he has great athleticism, he has great length, but he also became smarter about how to block. And I think that's where you see it now. Morgan Moses was a 3rd-round pick like Coleman. I think Coleman's ahead of where Moses was that year. I think where Moses did really well was he was a guy you make a mistake, tell him what to do, then you don't make it again. So Coleman, I think, is ahead of that. I think he's in a pretty good spot. I like what I've seen from him. I'm trying to think of some other tackles. Sheriff was a guard, right? And you saw that right away, but he's an all-pro guard. And I think with Cosme, you saw him as a good tackle. And I think there were some indoctrinations because he's going up against Sweat and Young. We don't see them against an elite pass rusher in this camp. That's going to be a hard thing to really gauge. So before I say where the progress is, see what he does against the Jets, Dolphins, etc. And I think that's when you get a better feel. But the early returns, Casey, I like because I think that there's something there. And I've said this before, but I don't know if he's going to be, when he'll start, how good he'll be. But I think he can play in this league. All right, Matt wants to know, do you think there will be any progress on re-signing, extending guys like this season, or does AP want to let it all play out and address things next offseason? I think it depends who it is. I think with a guy like Allen, I could see them just kind of waiting a little bit to see what level he's still playing at and make it a good, if they want to keep him around, make it a good contract for both sides. I do think if they're going in the right direction, I think both sides would want to continue that. But it does not, with Cosme is the one that to me is most interesting, and I'm not sure where that stands because he'll be a free agent, but I think he's a young guy just kind of now getting into his own, or getting, he's a young guy, playing well, and I think those are the kinds of guys. Whereas with Allen, he's a little bit older, so see what level he's still playing at before you make a big commitment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, because again, if Allen has a really good year, he's going to get a really good deal from them to keep him around for a few more years. They can do that. And by the way, Scott Solomon, who's a new member, thank you very much. So but I don't know about the others. I think let's wait and see. I know it's not unusual to kind of wait a little bit. We've seen that with other regimes. So Nathaniel wants to know, was the virtual training Jaden uses used by previous QBs here? No, it's not one that's used by a lot. Not everybody, I think, is going to like it. I think it takes the right kind of person. I remember I talked to a gentleman at LSU who really kind of helped develop this. And I told him, I was talking to him, and I think he agrees that I think you need the right guy for it. Somebody who's got that kind of into the, I'm into journeys, I'm into process, I'm into growth mindset, right? You need somebody who has that growth mindset who's not afraid to say, okay, this is something new. I'm okay trying it because it might make me better. I think some people might resist it. Not everybody wants to do it, but I do think it's going to become a bigger, I think slowly more teams will incorporate it. And I know that I think there were like 5 or 6 teams, I was told, that showed interest in it. So, but not here. This is the first time here. And it does seem to be a big help. I don't know. And it also depends too. And I think not every quarterback learns the same way. I think some guys would have benefited from some of this before, but I don't know that the technology was where it was at, because like LSU really worked with the developers of that VR stuff to make it realistic and game speed and just, the details they have in there, from what I understand, are terrific. So like that didn't exist before. So this is a really, really new, updated version of all of that. So yeah. Tom wants to know, how would you say the tight end 4 spot has been looking competition-wise, assuming Ertz, Sinnott, Bates are locked? Yes, and those 3 are going to make it. Bates is a blocker. And you heard Dan Quinn talk about him the other day. Obviously like him. He's a really good blocker. You want a run game, you need a good blocking tight end. Sinnott obviously is a lock, and Ertz is a lock. So the 4th one, Cole Turner's been working a lot there. I think Colson Yankoff is a guy to watch. I don't know if he makes the roster, if he makes it more in the practice squad. I haven't seen enough from him to say, oh my gosh, this guy's tearing it up, roster spot. Haven't seen that. But you saw some stuff in the spring as a guy to watch. So, but you haven't seen in practice. It's not like he's just destroying guys. That's not the case. But I think he's a guy to watch how he progresses through the preseason. I think Rodgers is the other guy. But Turner's been out there before him, and that's assuming they keep 4 tight ends. I could see them. This is how it's going to go. Like, what if you want to keep 7 receivers? Are you and 4 running backs? Are you able to keep four tight ends? Maybe not. So maybe you get Yankoff and Rodgers on the practice squad, or 2 of those 3 on the practice squad to cover yourself in case something happens. I don't know. And with Rodgers, it'd be interesting because I don't know that anybody would put him on the roster now if you wanted to keep him and develop him, because he just hasn't shown enough as a tight end to put him on the 53 for another team that doesn't know him, right? So you could be able to stash some of these guys on there if you wanted to go, like if they're not sold on Cole Turner, but they like Yankoff and Rodgers, you can keep them around in that spot. So that's why I'm not sold that they're going to keep 4. On my initial 53, I put 4 because that's kind of how it usually is. But I don't think that I don't think it's a lock. I don't think anything is a lock at this point, because again, I'm assuming 2 quarterbacks, but what if they want 3? Then you're cutting somewhere else. What if, again, 4 running backs? Is it 9 offensive linemen or 10? 9 D linemen? How many linebackers are you going to keep? How many corners? Like Quinn typically keeps 6. So if you do that, then where else are you going to keep less? Because you're going to have to keep less somewhere else if that's what you want to do. Any worry that when Jaden isn't in a rep, he's on a knee or seemingly disengaged? No, I don't have any worries about him. I see him a lot talking to coaches and teammates, and disengage is not the one word I'd use with him. Back to Jamin Davis. Could Jamin Davis play some OLB in a 3-4 base? Yeah, I think so. But I think you have to also cover. I think like as a pass rusher, I think it's going to be interesting. They're not going to play a lot of that base, right? but I think you could put him out there and right now it's been four-man. It's been more of a 4-3, so he's not even playing that really. But when he's in there, as a rusher, he's usually in a 2-point stance, not a 3-point stance. But yeah, I think if you're going to keep him, you want to use him in a certain kind of a role like that, where as a pass rusher off the edge, a guy who can blitz. I know the coverage is not his strength, but he can come. Now, funny thing is that's what his strength was coming out of college. But this is all about leverage in the NFL. It's not about speed. But if you feel he can help you there at least somewhat, then you can have him rush off the edge in that kind of a situation. This one's about Derek Forrest, and this is interesting. So Brandon wants to know, is Forrest in danger of not making the team? I've read that he is mainly playing with the threes. Yes, Brandon, he is playing with the threes. Now, I like Derek Forrest. It's funny because my first thought was I think this group is going to like him because he plays tough and physical, but he has been working behind Percy Butler. You also have Jeremy Reeves. You have Dominique Hampton, whom they drafted. You have, again, Tyler Owens, who they signed as an undrafted. So but the one thing Quinn said today is that they're not going in here with bias about who they brought in versus who is here. But I do wonder about Forrest because, right now, who's the guy left out in this? How many safeties? If you're going to keep 5, there's going to be a tough cut in there. So is it with Butler, good special teams player and speed? Like those are hard things for coaches to get rid of if that's the case. So yeah, I think I think I would just say this at safety. It's going to be a tough call and somebody that people are like, oh wow, okay, that's not maybe a surprising cut, but that's one like a year ago, dude's on the roster. So, I think they've improved it there. And again, I don't Dominique Hampton, it's not like he's jumping out and making all sorts of plays out there, but he's a draft pick. He's got the size and the length. So I would be surprised there if something happened. Jeremy Reeves, special teams leader. So we'll see. Like Derek Forrest to me is a tough kid and a tough player, not kid, but tough player. So does that show up in some of these other practices? Because yeah, he has been working with them. Bob Baker, what up, Bob? Was the new kicker there? Yes. And how do you look? 5 for 5. And I think I mentioned that earlier. Both kickers were 5 for 5. He has the experience. I think that's a good thing for them. So the Pastor King, I think they should let Coleman grow. We're not winning Super Bowl yet. Let our players get experience. Well, the way you get experience is by playing. And if he's good enough, put him out there. And I think what his point is making is that put him out there, let him grow and develop on the field. I think that's what the Poster King's trying to say. I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yes, I think you want him out there because he belongs out there. And I think that's the key. If he doesn't belong out there, don't put him out there just to help him grow. You can work on some stuff here. And sometimes what you're working on is not just, it's more about the mental reps, right? How do you know the playbook? How are you doing on handling stunts? When you get better in those areas, now they feel more comfortable putting you out there when you have a rookie quarterback. That's the key. So I do think, I could see him getting out there and yes, not so much to take his lumps, because if he takes his lumps, someone else is taking their lumps too. And you don't want number 5 taking too many lumps because you're trying to grow Brandon Coleman. You put Coleman out there because you think he's the best of what you have. And then you keep trying to develop him because you do not want to go in the offseason needing that tackle, maybe a right tackle, and maybe another cornerback. We'll see how that goes because those are expensive positions, whether in terms of draft capital or in terms of salary cap space. So anyways, well, there you go, folks. I appreciate all the questions. Always enjoy doing these things. Let me see if there's any more that I can get to. Well, let's see. And so E plus an additional safety would be the priority because of the depth at the position, possibly. But then it's like, Dan Quinn is almost always, when I've seen him, whether it's in Dallas or Atlanta, is always kept at least 6 corners. Keep that in mind. Now, he's had some years where they've kept more than 5 safeties. Other years, it's usually about 5. And so that's what I kind of go by some of that. Like I looked at where does he keep extra guys, or what are the numbers at different spots? So that's how you look at it. So now I will say to that point, if you have 6 safeties who belong on the roster, you're keeping something less at some other position. That could be 3 tight ends. It could be only 5 linebackers. Maybe if you let's say Jamin Davis isn't here for whatever reason, whether it's trading or whatever, then that opens up a spot there as well, because now I like. So anyways, that's what it would have to happen. I don't, and you can keep some of that on the practice squad. Like, I don't know that Tyler Owens would get picked up by someone else. People are always worried about that, but I don't know that we've seen enough from him to say, oh, he's going to get picked up. Got to see it in the games, got to see it in the practices. Right now, he just looks like a kid, a young man worth developing. Like, I like the traits that he shows. I like how he shows up, but it doesn't mean that right now he warrants a roster spot. I think it'll be interesting to see for sure. Any cause for concern about playing guys in the turf of MetLife? No, it's a game. You're going to have to play on there. I think in the preseason, I'm guessing that it's they're going to play a series or two at most, because that's just how teams are going. And that joint practice means everything. And then Casey, we're going to end on this one. Can you tell a major defensive back coaching difference from last year? Hell yes. How's that? And this is where I'm going to have Benjamin St. Juste talk more about that, what they're focusing on and how it's helping them. So that's a good segue into Monday's podcast. I will be back on Friday with another one wrapping up the practice. I'm going to have Logan Paulson on for Saturday. They're back out here Sunday. I'll be back out here Sunday with another one. So there you go. Just kind of setting up the week, folks, trying to give you one every day. And again, for you Gold members, 6 o'clock Eastern time on Friday, join me for a private Zoom. As always, folks, thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.